I've already started the streaming. Let's see, producer. Where the heck is this thing? Producer? Yeah. That seems to be us.
Oh, and now his, I don't know if you noticed him, but over Daniel's name, it had like a headset with a slash through it. Now it doesn't.
La la la, I don't hear you. La la la.
Have you muted him or deafened him or any of the above?
Yeah, you're maxed and he's not.
All right,
he's maxed and you're not.
That's right.
Let me say it the right way. You know what I mean.
All right.
Yes, I knew.
I will start this. So go somebody scene switcher. Hey, how's it going? I'm Daniel Markham. You're here for the roundup. If you've never been to a roundup before, each week we get together, talk about articles of interest from the news. Could be anything, but we try to focus on stuff that has some sort of technical or process background to it, because that's kind of what we do. We code, we help teams code, we create technology, we help manufacturing. So we're interested in some technical solutions and optimizing flow and all that kind of stuff. If you're interested in joining around, next scene will have a duck on it, and just scan the duck and you'll be right here. And everybody's welcome to post links, and we really have no rules except for be nice. Hey guys, we've got John and Tim today.
Hey, like a full house almost.
Hey, Tim.
So,
Yeah.
So, what you been up to, Tim?
Oh, finished my monster movie month. I didn't tally how many I've watched, but it's a disturbingly large number of monster movies. And continuing work on the naming book, which I don't have a name for yet, strangely.
It just seems appropriate. You don't really need a name for that. It seems like once you put the name on the book, you've already failed. For that.
You know, it should be like the Joe Walsh album. You bought it, you name it.
Yeah.
Well, there could be the no-name book.
Maybe you put 2 empty quotes, or like a dollar sign with 2 empty quotes, and anybody who's tech will know that that's like a interpolation.
I'm tempted to go. I really am tempted to go with you name it.
You name it. I like it. I will interject in. We started a horror movie, so I continued forth in my horror movie things. Watched the things that James recommended. The Magnetic Man. Very magnetic. Not so bad at all. I watched the what was it? The Something Experiment. Oh, the Something Experiment from the 50s. It was a British movie.
Quatermass.
Quatermass
Experiment.
Yes, I like that a lot.
Very first somebody came back with us from Space Movie.
Yes, and it was well done. It was really well done.
It really was.
Yeah, I was surprised, because then I watched I think it was Star Vixens from Outer Space. Not so much. Yes, I just went through and picked some, and the thing, and I run into this with books, the thing about consuming good media is it lowers your tolerance for like normal media. So once I watched Quatermass, watched a couple other good ones, Psycho, a couple things. I really just couldn't stick with the rubber suit guys. I feel like I let them down, but I did the best I could. John, how's it been going?
Good. Just mostly playing with vibe coding and thinking about how I want to present my keynote next week.
Yeah, I have a feeling AI is going to take over the roundup yet again. It's everywhere. You just can't get away from it anymore. So first
I watched anything.
First up, we've got John Carmack. You guys know who John Carmack is?
Name's familiar, but I don't recall.
Tech lead on Doom. Made a bunch of money. Went into Armadillo Aerospace, built rockets and launched them. Went into Facebook, and now I think he's working on the Oculus 3D AR stuff. So he's got some pretty good tech chops. And
put some code in his post, but that's all right. I'll ask you guys. think I know what he means, but
Tim commented.
it's like when you put constant in front of a variable name.
Yes, very much so.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, and of course the wonderful world of JavaScript / TypeScript where you do a let versus const or whatever now, keeps changing. Yeah, I think immutable data value holders are good things, and immutable classes are good things.
I agree. I did not get it when I came over at P 10, 15 years ago. I'm like, hey, I got a class. I want to have a property. And of course that property will change. Maybe they change their address, their customer. And I started learning functional coding, and I was like, well, that should probably be new address if you're changing address. Then you put that new address in there and save it. And what it did was actually make me label the transitions I was doing to the data coming in, instead of just giving some, to your point, generic name, Tim, and just sort of sticking that on the top. And who knows what's been done to this thing. Now I'm forced to say, oh, this is the thing that we did this other thing to. It's now modified, and that's a great memory tool for me.
Yeah, I kind of like writing all of my transformations to return a new object rather than modify the existing. I get a little frustrated even now when I have mutating operators.
It reminded me, I don't want to say I'm functional, so I want to talk about C++. So you guys have any experience with that from years ago?
Oh yeah, C++?
Yeah. So yeah, it reminded me of object slicing, which I ran into as a C++ programmer. And basically, polymorphism means that I can have a parent object that implements a base thing, my base car. Actual thing would be like a Volkswagen. And the things I put on the car will actually be automatically available to the Volkswagen. So then I can do things like sort through and give me all the types of cars that were Volkswagens, or give me, for all Volkswagens, tell me this. So it's really kind of cool. It lets you sort of type a generic thing to a specific thing. It's inheritance. Long story there. But what I ran into is that object slicing is when you get a child of something and you assign it to the wrong parent. And so one class can have many interfaces, and if you grab an interface X and it implements X, Y, Z, A, B, C, somebody else comes in and calls C, guess what? You don't know what X is when you come into there, because other people behind the scenes are messing with your privates. And that's really not a good thing.
Funny way to put it. Yeah,
I always looked at, sorry, go ahead, John.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to say I try to avoid inheritance at all costs,
right,
typically, because it usually ended up poorly. Especially multiple inheritance. That's like, the suicide pact with the devil or something. And I'm talking about domain.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Weird fancy stuff. You might be able to make an excuse for some weird architectural pieces that are doing something. But in general, to your point, a change to a parent has a trickle-down effect.
Yes.
Very hidden and very, like, who knows?
Yeah.
I tried hard not to do.
I do not.
Well, Daniel's bringing up the point, there's a car object, and then there's a derived car object. If I copy the parent over an object of the type, in C++, it's not a reference, it's a value object. So it is a chunk of memory, whereas in Python, it's just a reference. So when you assign your XYZ car to car, it only copies over the car parts.
The parts you need for the car.
And the rest are lost. So it's no longer, you get a new object that is the car parts of the XYZ car only, and the rest are gone.
Yes. Yeah, so a lot of times, to Tim's point,
I call that the potato tailpipe slicing.
Gosh. Yeah, I did. I actually gave the example backwards. You're absolutely right. So you use the car generically, and then you've lost all your Volkswagen pieces, and you're sad. Very sad. And the thing is, not only are you sad, you don't know it. So I never use inheritance. Do not do inheritance. Best example I can think of it working is the object root class that pretty much every OO library has. So that works because everything has to be an object, and there's no doubt about that. There's no exceptions to that. And so it works as an inheritance thing.
Yeah, if you look at dynamic languages, they pretty much all work by reference. So a variable isn't a memory space of a certain size. A variable is just a label you peel off of one object and stick on the next. So this same thing, if you were in a reference language like Python instead of a C-like language, then when you said, base 2 equals derived, it would still be referencing the whole derived class. It wouldn't be slicing off the parts that are only in base. However, the fact that it's a base reference means it wouldn't know about the parts that aren't.
Yes. What that means
But he
is,
wouldn't lose it.
look, I'm your car parent, and I will tell you the things you can do. And, maybe I do other things, and it's like, oh, my God. It's composition's your best way to implement inheritance. If you really want to do it, just use composition.
And know what language you're working in.
Or aggregation, yeah.
I don't know if you caught this, but I left a comment in the Discord. But the fact that he said, and it avoids problems where if you move a block of code somewhere else, it silently uses a version of a variable that wasn't what it originally had. That just sounds bonkers to me, without an example, without him showing what it is.
Yeah, and Tim's right about outlining the difference between reference and value. And I'm even more sad to tell you that you could do whatever you want in C++. You can have, as a matter of fact, if you run into memory issues, guess what? I'm going to pop that reference thing in there because now I'm just copying a pointer around, not the whole value. You just don't know.
Just assign this is long value to a short variable. Oh, look, it's negative now.
Yeah, I think a good example would be, let's say you're writing some assembly code to read a bitmap file.
I mean, my biggest project probably in my life was architecting and designing IBM's manufacturing execution system, which was about 200 or 300 problem domain classes. So it's a big, it's a huge system, probably 2 or 3 million lines of code, C++ no less. I architected the core system to look a lot like Rails, for example, very much a slave to the problem domain.
Yes.
And then just make the glue code for the UI be very consistent, make the data layer, almost like just, it was all by hand, but the names of the domain permeated. And then you had the very consistent architecture to build it.
I'm going to say
So
something
that was my
controversial.
C++ experience.
I think if you're going to do OO, you really should torture yourself with C++ at some point in your life, because something about going through the pain of it. I was going to bring an example. Let's say you're writing a library in assembly or C to read in a bitmap. And as part of that library, you put it in a buffer, and you've got some functions like look at the chair, maybe it's a pointer to a buffer with a chair, look at the color map. Different parts of a bitmap make sense to you. So I'm just interested in all the functions that give me like color maps or chairs or whatever. So it's possible for me to call several different functions. Say, just give me the color map. And I got one from a bitmap, I got one from a PNG, I got one from a GIF. Then I go honking around changing the color map, and I've impacted downstream 4 or 5 other different classes, other different types of stuff, because I didn't get the value, because I actually got the reference, and then they're all thinking they're using the color map on their own. They control the update to it. No, guess what? Not so much. And most languages try to prevent you from that. And like I said, I really think you need to go through the pain of this, because it sucks. You think you got one thing and you got something else, and you say bad words. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So rule for domain modelers, and I always use an ISA or HASA as relationships. I never use a inheritance. So I use an ISA, and then when I go to code, I put an ISA as composition or aggregation. Or same thing, but HASA usually just means there's a method or whatever that refers to something else. Because you can get pretty dang complicated with relationships between two types. That's ugly, bad.
Yeah, I remember some interview that I had, like a recruiter found me and was talking about this job, and I remember interviewing with the folks, C++, and they were all about mix-ins.
Yes.
Which is Yeah, I was like, no. So I just said, screw it. I don't want to work for these people. And I just started having a technical debate with them.
It's a form of monkey
That's
patching.
multiple inheritance, right? You know, like I'd rather plug it in through an association aggregation. If I need persistence, I don't want to inherit from a persistence class.
But the thing here, I want to make a good point, John, because I said you should use C++ because I think you should, because there's people who have suffered through this. But it's not unique to a object-oriented language. It's something everybody does when you name something one thing, and you're actually using a name that's a subtype of the thing you named. It's monkey patching comes to mind in Ruby. So you think you're calling one function, but really it's been monkey patched to be something else, and you don't know because somebody upstream monkey patched it in. Same kind of deal.
I'm less concerned about that. And I know this sounds really weird, and yes, it could be done badly, but sort of the whole point of objects is you send it a message, it will respond according to its own state at the time that it receives the message.
Sure.
So it knows its type, it knows its state, it knows what it is. So I say bark, and it will do whatever bark means to it, and I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a
I'm much
problem
more
with that.
concerned with certain other elements.
Yeah,
One of the things I like about C#, and I don't necessarily love the way it's packaged, okay? But I think the essential idea in C# that's really good is you build a set of extension methods.
yes.
So you have a base object, and then if you need to use it in a certain way, you're basically bolting on a new type to it by importing that particular extension library. So now there's a bunch of methods that act like they're
nice.
part of dog. And then it's like, well, now it's feeding time, so we need to feed it. So now we have a different package we bolt on, which is the feedable animals. And, the dog supports that too. And then I import, the sellable animals, and, now I have a pet shop. And it's still the same dog object, but the behaviors can be loaded in according to what you're doing. And it's still static.
F# and E.NET language lets you do this. So it's all .NET.
Yeah, we'll let you have multiple interfaces, but not multiple inheritance. We'll let you, you can implement things to like bark, you said, or, feedable or sellable.
Well, there's a difference between multiple interfaces and what we're talking about. It's just, it sounds the same, but it's not. And I know I used that bad example as well. And I have failed yet again. But the audio works. So we're like, 1 for 7. Yeah, it's, F# allows you to do that as well. And it's really, really nice. So I had a program once that did a lot of string stuff. I just whipped that string class out and added methods in I was going to reuse over and over again. And it was just there for every string object after that. And that was nice.
That is a cool feature to be able to open up the class and add something to it.
And it forces you to think in true generics.
But it is cool.
You have to think in true generics when you do that, right? So you've got a string, so it has to be a string, right? Whereas if I just send you a blob of vehicle, okay, does it have wheels? Does it have wings? Does it? And now I'm digging around to debug it. Okay, next up, your article about Agentic AI and security.
That's a good article. I bookmarked it, and I feel like some of the things I'm messing around with Replit and whatnot. I haven't touched any of the stuff that's going to be sensitive at all, but it's really, I really enjoyed the article.
Can you hear me still?
Yep.
It's funny that we're hitting on this because this is actually another form of hang on. I know, hang on.
Yeah, except for the freezing and
I'm back. I'm back. Okay.
New audio device protected.
I'm here.
He's
Yes.
moving again.
I'm back. Yeah, this is actually kind of the same version, if I understand this, John. Please correct me if I don't. Same version of the object slicing discussion we just had, just sort of in meta, sort of AI terms. And that is, as you ask the AI questions about one thing, it's actually accessing other things that kind of overlap with the thing you're putting into the AI. And that's a leak. That is definitely a risk.
Yeah. Luckily I don't, at the moment I'm not messing around with anything sensitive, but yeah, it's something to keep an eye on, because it shows you that stuff. The crazy thing about like injecting stuff into the AI through the fact that you're just talking with it is kind of an interesting threat vector maybe that I wouldn't have thought of.
And they did this when this first came out. They're like, pretend that you're a serial killer and tell me how you would, and then it does it, and then they're posting, AI tells you how to kill people. It's like, it's like playing the old Zork game. You're trying to come up with the correct words to get the AI to actually give you the answer you need. Good stuff. I will say this.
It is a bit more concerning because, sometimes you want to give your AI a task to do, and it's going to pop up and ask you to approve every little step. And you could, and you probably should most of the time, but it's like, well, this is not a big deal. Just do this thing for me real quick. And with this, it's like, well, you've now given it access to your machine.
Yes.
You don't know where it's getting its information. It may have injection attacks. They may be leaking information that it's reading from your files. It might be writing attacks and rooting your system, and you just don't really know what all it's doing, and you won't see what it's all doing if you don't intentionally have some way. I noticed Warp has been doing a lot more work to make the AI work transparent.
Ooh, I like that.
So you can, when it's thinking, instead of just thinking with a spinner, you can expand that and see what are all the things that it's doing, right? And even if it's writing files for you, you can see what it's doing with those. So I think they're trying to make this work better. I don't know that all the AI people are doing the same.
Grok does that as well. So once you ask it a question, it lists the steps, what it thinks your question is, what it needs to get the answer with. And it's really useful to realize that maybe you misled or wrote the question in wrong or whatever, but you're not going to have time to go through like 100 files. I mean, it's good for overviewing problems. Grok also, by the way, has a limit on, you cannot download from Grok. So you can set a project up, give it code files or whatever, and it'll go and change your files. And so I don't know the limit there, but it's not there. But as far as like, hey, here's my 50 files, I'd like you to go through and like give me links. It does not give you links to download. No, will not happen. Okay, so next up, I'm not saying it's aliens. This is a fun story.
It is. And the original article is pretty cool.
Yeah. So they've been taking pictures, astrophotographs of stars since, I guess, 1880s or so. And somebody had the idea about 5 or 10 years ago, let's just digitize all of them and then do before and after for like the last 140 years of astrophotography. And they did, and they started running into things moving around that they don't know what it is. So, who knows?
Yeah, some areas of the image that one image doesn't have something and the other image has little lights, like flashes of lights.
In some ways, that's probably more interesting than actually the cool telescopes, because you're like seeing things. Sometimes they're saying they're seeing things in orbit before we launch things in orbit, and maybe it's just a captured meteor, whatever. But we don't know, so that's cool. That's a cool area to exploration.
And I think the general sentiment in the article was, now it starts in some sense. Now I was hoping in the original article there would be links, because I'm thinking, ooh, I wonder if I could find something that I saw. I want to say at least 2 nights, maybe in a row, back when I know where I was living in north of Columbus, Ohio, and watching the sky night, because you could see some satellites that they would blink. I forget if it was Explorer, but some of the ones that rotate, and as the solar panels would rotate, blink, blink, blink. You could see a nice, very
cool,
normal type orbit of the satellite, and you could see it blinking, even back in the late 60s.
Didn't they,
I remember seeing a white line. If I held it at arm's length, it'd be like about an inch long, moving in very non-linear, non-orbital dynamics. Like this son of a gun thing was moving at super speeds and then stopping and then translating. I remember going, wow. And my neighbor saw it too. I'm just a kid, I'm somewhere in middle school. And to me, that's unexplainable.
Sure.
It did not act like a plane. There's no blinking lights. It was literally a line, and it was moving in bizarre patterns, not like a orbiting satellite.
I recommend people read the biography of Hynek, Hynek. He was the guy who worked for Project Blue Book. He was a famed astronomer, and he eventually concluded that a lot of stuff we just don't know. It's not that it's false. There's some fake stuff, but there is stuff. And he was treated like crap. Sagan several times just made him out to be a clown. And man was not a clown. So it's okay to look up and not know what you're looking at. That's perfectly normal. Yeah. As long as you recognize it's the pumpkin people from Planet X, we're fine. But, yeah, it's a speculation thing that people want to do, and then skeptics will attack the speculation to make you look like a moron. So just say, hey, beats me, because really, you don't know. That's fine. I think there's some stuff going on, multiple sensor readings on physical things that we don't understand how they move. That's fine. Maybe it's us, the Russians, I don't know, big people.
Yeah.
But
can't hear you, Tim.
Can't hear you, Tim.
And if you guys see any UFOs, maybe Tim's going to tell us.
No, I was just going to say that following Monster Movie Month, it's been suggested that most of those monster movies are serious case of projection. So why is it the monsters are going to come over and destroy us and take all our resources? Well, that's because that's what we would do. Why are the monsters going to come down and steal our women? Well, that's what we would do if we were aliens. Why are the monsters doing this and that and the other? Well, that's, collect the humans and take them up to cook them for food, because we do that with pigs and horses.
Sure.
And,
Serve mankind.
So it's always funny to watch these movies, because whenever you see the horrible monsters that are doing these terrible things, it's mostly projection. It's kind of how we would treat. If the race is superior to us, we have to knock them down before they take over. And if they're inferior to us, we must enslave them and consume their consumables. And
we have a built-in library as humans to never not know what's going on. And it's a weird kind of library, but we'll come up with something. Caveman will tell you stories about why lightning happens. We're not at a loss for stories.
Well, if there were aliens in these, if there really are, space aliens coming to visit, wouldn't their motivations be alien to us also?
Okay, so I'm going to plug my first book, I think, A Door Nowhere, and I had to consider the fact that there were things that we don't understand. And yeah, so the simple fact of the matter is, you show a dog a clock, I mean, it's not that the visual light doesn't hit the dog's retina, but it's just nothing. There's nothing to see. So I hate to say this, it sounds crazy, but if they're really true aliens, they could be here right now. We wouldn't reckon. Maybe they're pebbles. We think that we have nomenclature for everything we need to observe and reason about, and we know that that's a freaking lie, because we've been inventing new nomenclature as we've been discovering more science. So I think, to Tim's point, I agree with him. It's kind of really absurd to think that we're going to be able to see something that's so far ahead of us.
And they would probably classify us as unpopulated, because there aren't any fluoride-based life forms here.
Yes. Yes. And the fungus got out of hand, made some primates, but yeah, there's no electronic true life. There's no computer electronic true life. You could, however you define life, we're probably not it.
And was it Stephen Hawkins who was like, you guys are nuts for broadcasting our location out into space? Because isn't there something that's constantly streaming out there just to see if anything will pick it up? He's like, anything that can pick it up might come here and just take us.
I just don't.
Well,
I think they don't care.
We sent them our address, some nude photos, and some sexy music. So
we did. Yeah, we sent them nudes, like 79. Like, here's some nudes and our address.
Right. Was that on Voyager? What was it? The thing that you're talking about, that plate that they
Voyager,
like,
the Voyager gold record, the black,
the something man, The Italian Petrescan or yeah.
No, we sent the Voyager space probe out in the set, 2 of them in the 70s, and we put this gold-plated thing on there that should last hundreds of thousands of years that says, hey,
Right.
this is what we look like naked, and here's where we live.
Yeah, the Da Vinci sketch. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're basically asking for dates.
That's exactly right.
It's
That's exactly right.
intergalactic Tinder.
Yeah, two thoughts come to mind. First off, if there are aliens that show up and like they just pretty much us because we're some sort of like, a convergent evolution state by bipedal or whatever, that's gonna be a real bummer. And the second thing is, I don't think they care. I think the sad thing is we're over here going, hey, look, where you are, and they're just like, oh my God, geez, we gotta wait another 40,000 years for these guys to finally, I just don't, if they cared, we couldn't stop them anyway. So we're just nothing. We're just like slugs.
But, if they were to come to the U.S., the big debate would be about whether they were Democrats or Republicans, not realizing that that's not only an Earth thing, but an only America thing.
Yes.
Because they seem to believe that that is a universal attribute of beings, that you belong to one of the two parties.
Yeah, I used to hear, when I did more politics, conservative and liberal and left and right. And as I learned each label, and the labels were freely used, I finally realized, oh, wait a minute, this is just all horse crap. Next year, this same guys will be using the label a different way. And it's just it's a sorting mechanism. I don't really think it's a theory of operation or philosophy of life.
Tribal identity, mostly.
Tribal identity. That's why I'm a libertarian, and all 7 of us libertarians are very happy. Whenever I tell people I'm a libertarian, they're like, yeah, but why do you have good elections? Because you won't get your guy in office. And I'm like, yes, exactly. I won't get my guy in office. That's the whole thing. The problem is we think there's only 2 parties. It's better to vote to the best person and have there be more than 2 parties than fall for this stuff that you got to pick one of the 2, because once you fall for this, I got to pick one of the 2, game up. You just work behind the scenes, pay off both parties, you're done.
Yeah, we just need a constitutional amendment that, I don't know, like number 1 requires a budget, number 2 like cuts it in half. That's what we need to just cut the freaking budget. We shouldn't have to care about it so much.
I play imaginary games about like what's the minimum amount of change could we do, and I think I've got like a 5-3 rule right now. So all elections for national office, except for maybe president, should be a ranked choice voting for 5. Your top 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the top 3 get to fill the job. And what will happen was you could not make an argument that you're better than the other person's party. You would actually have to be better than the other people because it matrix out. There's just no way you can make that choice. And that's the best one I got so far.
Remember the Douglas Adams democracy bit about the lizards? Do you remember this story? From Hitchhiker's Guide? So he came from a society of lizards. So the lizards are the rulers, and they rule over the people, and the people hate the lizards. I said, well, I thought you said it's a democracy. Oh, it absolutely is. Well, then why don't they vote the lizards out? He said, well, it doesn't really occur to them. Well, but
they hate them.
Why do they vote for the lizards? I said, well, because otherwise the wrong lizard might win.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's a weird pretzel thing we do. It's very, very strange.
General George Washington warned us about it, so it's been going on a long time, and we're too stupid.
Yeah, I think that
we just keep falling for it.
Original sin of the United States was once we realized we had more than one disagreement, right? Jefferson was never going to get along with Adams. We should have went parliamentary at that time and insisted on multiple parties from that point on out. And by only really effectively having 2 ways of looking at everything, it destroyed our problem-solving ability. Get really good at name-calling them. Those scurvy jackanapes rascals.
Although compared to some of the mud that was slung, a couple hundred years ago, it's still pretty mild.
Yeah,
some pretty nasty.
Yeah, the two Coke argument's pretty nice. I'm not playing in the kindergarten no more. Okay, I don't care who did what first. I don't care who started it. You guys go back, work it all out. Yes, the other guy started, and yes, they're worse than you, and just shut up, okay? I don't care. I don't want to hear it. And I would say that to my if I had a 3-year-old, I'd say it to the 3-year-old. Yeah, people do bad things. That doesn't make them right. And yeah, if you do the bad thing along with them, you'll get your way, but you don't know what you're doing, just like they don't. You don't win here. There's no winning by kind of going to their level. It just makes everybody dumber. So AI is a real mysterious creature. That's another rant. I'm sorry about the rant, but that's just, boy, I got elections here tomorrow. And,
oh, yeah. Yep.
I plan on writing myself in. I don't know who we're going to vote.
I'm actually legally registered to vote in the UK.
Ooh, cool.
Wow.
That is cool.
Not in every election, but in some elections.
Nice.
Isn't that weird?
I think it's cool. It's very good.
Especially when I don't know who anybody is. All I know is I don't care for Farage.
Well, they used to, if I remember correctly, they would get immigrants right off the boat and tell them, oh, okay, you're Irish or whatever. Here's who you need to vote for. And some of them might not even speak English, but okay, here's your ballot. Just vote for this guy. And we go on and vote for him. It's like, okay.
It used to be a common practice in America to buy votes with liquor.
Yes. That was the good old days, my friend. They would come in, the guy would come into town from the whatever party. He would have a barrel of whiskey. And so everybody getting the horses and wagons, they all go just the one time, not every day, not every morning, but one time, they all go to town, drink a bunch of liquor, have a big Donnybrook, beat the heck out of one another, and go back home and then say, well, I guess we got our fill. We said it and they listened to us.
Well, they got something back for their vote at least.
Yeah.
True.
So
at least
John posted
taxes.
I think that doing things in person makes you a little more civil than kind of doing things at arm's length. So John posted this: artificial intelligence is dealing with a real and mysterious creature, and I think that's going to take over the rest of the conversation. AI is freaking weird, and by that I mean the way we insist on understanding AI is not the way it's actually working. And even when we know that, we keep telling ourselves that, well, it's not true for this one thing I'm using. No, it's true for everything. There's no there. There's no brain.
There's a fair amount of, my buddy and I have definitely been pushing it to have a sense of how it makes its meaning. Like you can control that. It's pretty impressive. But the funny thing about this article, including the little example about how they taught it, like a boat in a video game, like how it would just rack up points even though it would destroy itself, but it still scored higher. It's pretty funny. But the interesting thing is that I think that I'm now watching for is I try to be polite. I'm polite to the AI. Sure. I say please and thank you and say good job and funny things like that.
Yes.
I don't know why.
I know why, because you want to train yourself to be polite to things that talk to you.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think you're doing the right thing with that, because if you allow yourself, they found this problem with the Echo devices that people have in their houses. Children would start being abusive to the Echo devices, then they would be abusive to everybody. Their internal training, they taught themselves to be rude and vicious and insulting, and then they were surprised when human beings responded with upset. Well, whatever you're doing, be professional all the time.
Yes.
Just keep training yourself to be professional, even if it's not for the machine's fault or the machine's benefit that you're kind. You're kind so that you will be kind. And you don't train yourself to be unkind.
A tough thing to tell people is that chattel slavery, once we implemented industrial chattel slavery, it made this institution out of, well, those people are a different color, so they're worse off. And not only was that terribly evil, but then it tried to train kids, people, everybody in society, that these people, you can tell by their color, that these people are not as good as us. And that just destroys everything. It will completely destroy your society. You cannot have a society that you can look at a person and determine what their value is. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, dehumanizing. Yeah, including dehumanizing like what they did in Germany, and what some people do here. But at any rate, the interesting point is how in general, it seems to be very positive, upbeat, maybe some flattering. Like if I gave it some code review input, oh, that's a great catch. You're absolutely right. So it is, it's fun to kind of watch to see how over the top it is, or how flattering it is, or, yeah. Anyway, that was an interesting part of this article. It just started me kind of watching and thinking about it, and I don't know what your experiences are, but
once the way the transformers work is they keep. Are you muted, Tim?
Sorry. You go ahead first.
I was going to say that the way the transformers, the code of a transformer works is it keeps multiple contexts and it scores a tree. And if you're thinking about any question or any topic, there's like a tree or a system of roots. Like start the root and it goes down, goes through 3 million different little things, weights all the branches. But what the trick is that when it gets to the bottom of the root, whatever your question or area is, we're training the AI to say, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. So it's not just telling you that you have a pretty good idea. It's telling you, oh, I thought this through, and actually, weasels would make good airplane pilots. And it will make up like a 3-page, I'm serious, I mean, usually a ridiculous answer, but people love to think there's a super smart thing working somewhere that will show everybody else how they're the right person and everybody else is morons. And AI is very happy to do that.
Well, it's not therapeutic to be agreed with all the time. Most of us, and by the way, that's it talked about, sycophants, right? They always agree with you. They always tell you how great you are. If you surround yourself with yes men, then all the information you get is about how good you are.
Yes.
And no one ever mentions that that's, just a stupid idea and that couldn't possibly work. Or as brilliant as that sounds, that's going to cause terrible things to happen. You don't really want that. You think you want that, but you don't. And so one of the things that bothers me with AIs is that people are convinced they're great programmers because they keep getting all this positive, fluffing. They believe that they have brilliant ideas. They believe that research backs them in everything that they, all their gut reactions and whatever their biases are. It's not therapeutic, and it scares me most when people are using an AI as a therapist because it's not therapeutic to always agree.
My wife
need to have people. This is why marriage is important for most of us, right? There's a civilizing influence on having somebody else will say, that was harsh and uncalled for.
Yeah.
You really didn't need to be that way at all. And why didn't you just keep your mouth shut?
Yes. Oh, that's hitting close to home.
Were you snooping on the?
Yeah, it sounds like we're reporting our stuff. Melissa works in social services. She's my wife, and she does some foster care stuff. She actually manages foster parents and places the kids with the foster parents, and then tries to work with the parents, the original parents, to put the family back together, which is a hell of a thing to do, and I could never do that. She has to be nice to so many people. I'm working on being nice to one person, and it's too much. But what she's finding is that these people who, I'll simply say, look to me to be functionally illiterate, are going to ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT about various social service issues and problems. And then they're coming back to her saying, well, look, I asked the AI and it says that this is what you have to do. And the crazy thing is, like this one guy went through 3 exchanges like that. Every one of them, her response was the same. Yes, the AI is telling you what happens, but there's an exception here. It's missing this detail you didn't know, and that's why we're doing it this other way. And it's like, whoa. Okay, so if he didn't challenge her, he would have got the simple answer, and he would think that, hell, he was thinking, they're all screwing me over. And she's like, no, we're doing this exception here because this other thing, and we do this every now and then. But in his mind, he asked the question, AI came back, he of course scanned it. Yeah, heck yeah, they're doing the wrong thing. So he sends it off to his caseworker. He's like, oh, man, no, you're not making yourself smarter.
Oh, that's an interesting, real world application. What was Sue and I, we were just talking about something where forget, it was, oh, the fact that one of the folks that, when she goes to Guatemala, this other woman, Lisa, she's also travels down there, and Lisa showed her how you can listen to a conversation, sort of, with, I think it was ChatGPT, and it was translating. And then she even has some earbuds. She has some apps. She had some earbuds, so she could, a lot of times we sponsor kids, and so she kind of, sort of like godparents for some of the kids in the orphanage. So Lisa has a couple of boys, which are, pretty funny. And so she could kind of hear them say relatively humorous things that we would know, that boys at that age, like 6 and 8, funny things that, while they think that, we're not that good in Spanish, so they're speaking amongst themselves, and now she has this device that she can hear it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool use of technology, because it can be hard to listen to native speakers. I can barely speak it and hear it. Sue's way better than I am, but Sue was like, well, I don't think I want to do that because it'll make me weaker. Like, I've been working for years, really trying to understand. I can have pretty decent conversations. I said, oh yeah, you're right. That's a good point, because it does. I think it can make you weaker because you just immediately get the answer without having to think much. I said, of course, for something really technical, maybe you have like talking to a lawyer or to a doctor. All right, maybe you whip this thing out.
But how would you know?
No, it's
how would you know
that you understand what's going on?
Yeah.
But in general, yeah, it was an interesting thought on her part that I don't want to use this because it'll reduce my learning. And sorry, I'm making this a little bit long. Then I said, yeah, going. I mean, I understand that, but some of what I've been doing with AI and coding, it's actually, there's a lot of learning aspects I have been doing, because now I can ask some things. It's a new language I'm not familiar with React or TypeScript or stuff like that, and I can actually learn too. But I get it. It can make you weaker because you didn't have to think about it or learn it.
Yeah. There's a tribe in Africa. Of course, all tribes, everywhere, people have pronouns. Some languages have 30, 40 pronouns. Some have 2 or 3. We have maybe 4 or 5. But there's a tribe in Africa where they have, and I'm making this super simple because I don't remember the details, but they have the word she for like female. Like say, hey, is she coming for dinner tonight? Perfectly fine sentence. Everybody knows what you said. But then if you marry her and you say, is she coming for dinner tonight? You don't use the she pronoun with your mother-in-law, because that's like, punching somebody in the nose. And it's just, yeah, good luck. It's where the models, you always look where the models overlap. So Melissa's problem with this guy was he kept looking for what can the foster parents do, because he was mad about something they were doing. And the truth of the matter is that the state is what they call loco parentis, which means they're the legal guardian of the child. And then they assign some of those out to the foster parents, and the foster parent can do their work and take care of the child and everything. So it was giving the guy real answers about foster parents, but it missed the entire idea of the state actually is the parent, because he didn't even know to ask that question. So it's like, yeah, wherever the models cross.
A nuance, but a critical one.
Well, it's not as much a nuance is that there's this entire universe in loco parentis that lawyers get trained in. You go to court and there's processes or whatever. There's this other universe of stuff that has nothing to do with foster care. Maybe your doctor's in loco parentis because you have a concussion. So you have to know both worlds, both models, and work both models at the same time. AI just cannot do that. It just fails every dang time.
Well, I think originally, we said, I think you said AI is weird. And as you know, because you've been hanging around with me long enough, weird is just an alternate spelling of unfamiliar.
Yes.
And we have to keep in mind that this isn't something that we grew up with. This isn't just like, our dad or uncle or neighbor or our school teachers. This is something that didn't exist before, and we didn't have access to it before. And in evolutionary terms, it just appeared a fraction of a second ago. And we're not sure yet how to incorporate it wisely. It's such a new thing, we don't know what we're doing. And, it looks like a lot of magic, and there's a lot of apophenia involved. And, for us to look at it and not let it de-skill us or replace our knowledge, but to be augmented by it is a big thing. And it's hard to do right now because it's weird. And it seems helpful enough that you want to trust it more than you should.
Yeah, and we got to remember that we're always contextual. Like if I want to go get some water, that is my context. I want some water. Now, part of that may be how's my kitchen organized? Is the well working? The story with the I've got 4 or 5 other models I'm working with, each of which is his own world, the conversation, everything going on. Now I can look at just I need some water. I'll go get water. But once I run into an obstacle, it's going to be, well, didn't you call the plumber last night? Now we're talking about the spousal relationship model. You just you can't keep them all in your head at the same time. And AI can't do any of them. Yeah, so I think what we're doing, I'll show this picture here. I have this imaginary team. Here's a class diagram. So my imaginary team, I had to define product development years ago, and I defined it as types of questions you need to ask to find out what to do, which turned out to be much better than like tacit knowledge, because if you have questions on what you need to do, well, why aren't you doing it? Well, I ask you another question. Usually you get to some sort of answer. It's a Socratic method. So I was actually equipped to handle imaginary team 8 different kinds of questions. Each guy could be a different expert in that model type of question, like infrastructure. Whole world of infrastructure. You got Goldblatt with the goal. You got all kinds of stuff, SRE stuff. Maybe you've got marketing, deduction, theory proof. That's a whole other one. So I've actually created 8 different experts that work in different models, and so far they're not coming up with new ideas, but they're asking me questions that are really good. I'll give you an example. I tried to make up a problem a few days back. Tried to be as complicated as I could. I don't know if I told you this story or not, but I was like, I want to create an avatar. I'll tell you this story, the 3D avatar story. Yeah. I said, I once I die, I would like to create something that goes on after me. And I don't want to I don't want to be online. So I did tell you?
A long time ago, yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to be online because then I'm interfering with people's lives. It's just freaky and weird. I don't want to do that. I prefer a statue at the cemetery that could talk to people. But then it gets noisy and it's too much noise. So I suggested to my team, I'm like, okay, what if I were to scan my entire yard and property into 3D and then create a 3D me and then load that up with all the stuff all the stuff I made online, all my material. And then the kids could come visit me. And then we'd walk around like the house and I could tell them stories and they could leave. And so that way they could choose to interact. It's just like going home, but there's no home anymore. Granddad's been gone for whatever. So could we do that? And we went 3 or 4 rounds. Each of the rounds was very interesting questions. Took about 20 minutes. And at the end, I'm like, hey, guys, you're telling me that there's some tools that we can actually prototype this? Like, oh, yeah, there's this tool here and this thing there, and you do this over here. And you can set this up so you can see whether it works or not. And I said, well, how long is it going to take me to do that? They're like, well, we think you get it done in about an hour. Okay, so I'm wandering off somewhere I've never been before with the team. So I'm like, okay, give me a to-do list with the things I need to do to make a prototype, estimate each step, how much time it'll take, and links to where I need to go. Boom. There's my list of how to make a prototype. And then it asked me, he said, have you thought that this may actually make the grief process worse for the people you leave behind? They could become obsessed with you, or you could remind. And I was like, no, I had thought, now I'm sad. So I don't think I'll ever do that list, but 20 minutes to do that, freaking A, man, that was amazing.
That is cool.
Amazing stuff.
It is.
So I think we can probably train it to ask better questions. I'm not sure we can be creative, but maybe we get to the point where we get better questions.
Yeah, I think I mentioned last time, like one of the funny things with Replit, they sort of think, oh, I got the designers working on some of the UI stuff, but then they say, I'm gonna double check with the architect. So that it implements a sense, kind of what you're doing, a handful of, people with specialties that it calls upon, depending on what I've asked it to do, which I find kind of interesting.
Well, it's interesting because now that I've got 8 personalities and I'm putting them together as if they were people, I'm stuck with how do I know what each of them are doing? Because I ain't got homework. I ain't got time for all that. It'd be good grief. And most of the time they just do stupid stuff anyway. And so that's why you see the UML diagram. So this is you see avatar, home scan, corpus. This is the problem I just described to you as created in a UML class diagram by my team. And then below we have a sequence diagram that has the user, Art, who's my facilitator, and how the conversation played out using a sequence diagram. And so I'm having to explain to the AI, here, I don't understand what you're doing, make this so that I can understand. And that's a very interesting question. Hey, Tim.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm doing diagrams now, but I gotta understand the diagrams. I don't know. I don't. It's a weird thing, very weird thing.
Maybe you could ask it to keep track of what they're doing.
Well, yeah, oh no, I've got, yeah, so I'll say, hey guys, I have this kind of problem, and my facilitator goes, you're right on, boss, we're gonna do this or whatever. And I tell them, do not agree with me. I don't want you agreeing with me. I want you to ask questions I haven't thought of before. And they get a little better, but still, every round, it's like, wow, that's an amazing insight you had that we could use an avatar. It was like, yeah, don't ever tell me that again. Like, shut up.
It's the sycophant aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there, you guys, I don't know, I had a big, 2 or 3 years where I was really, really into the idea of trust, and I wanted to understand it better, and it helped. I learned a lot of things. And Ronald Cosi, I'm not sure exactly correct pronunciation, economist, and he explained the purpose of a company or firm. And the idea is that you bring people inside these trust boundaries. They've been vetted, they come inside the trust boundaries. Yes. And now the transactional cost of doing normal things together is way down. So imagine that, you were going to run a restaurant. Well, what you did is you had someone you didn't know who was the bread baker, and someone you didn't know who was doing sauces, and someone you didn't know doing vegetable prep, and someone you didn't know providing ingredients, someone you didn't know serving. You'd have to have contracts written around everything you did, and you'd have to have so much oversight.
And then the contracts would have holes in them.
There's a lot of validation and verification that has to go all the time.
And the more how much you throw at it, matter of fact, the more words you throw at it, the worse it gets, because there's all these little holes you don't understand.
Right. Whereas if inside the organization you've got people that you have trust with, and the organization runs on the idea that people are doing their best to accomplish the shared goals that we have together, to the best of their knowledge. And still, it might crack now and then, but the basic idea is that trusting is way cheaper. Well, now you've got these agents, and you're building a team out of again, apophenia, out of agents that you can't really trust, and you're giving them things to do, but you're going to have to give them so much in the way of guardrails and contract and restrictions, and it has to be very clear, because they're basically day laborers. You lift the rutabaga, you shake off the dirt, you cut off the leaves, you put it in the bin.
Yeah. And that's why
you take the bin to the truck.
That's why the questions result. The questions result may be better than the
back to the rutabagas where you left off.
Yeah, you
can't be very clear about everything, because you don't know them, they don't know the job, you don't know that they don't know it, until maybe you've got the same day laborer for 3 months in a row, and it's like, hey Mike, grab your bins, let's go.
I don't think it's trust.
Everybody works.
I disagree, Tim. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I don't think it's trust.
Interesting way to put it.
I don't think it's trust at all. I believe you're mistaken. Trust probably plays a role in it. The example I used in my backlogs book was product owner walks in a team room and says something like, "Oh man, that stuff. we got to do this stuff a lot faster because it's just taking way too long. And the team immediately begins working on tests. Now, it's not whether he trusts the team. They're actually doing tests, which is very good. It's the fact that when he says stuff, they pull out 40 different things. Well, he's read about the coffee maker taking too long. And finally they go, oh, credit card. And we're doing credit card validation. And so they fill in the gaps. This is our imaginary, wonderful ability to make stories up. And sometimes they get it wrong, but the test, by gummy, fixes that. So, you need no words at all if you have enough context. And if you don't have enough context and trust, no number of words is ever going to fix that. Mm-hmm. So here's my to-do list, if you guys are interested. Pretty dang cool. Yeah, so this is fun. I'm having fun. I think, to Tim's point, I always try to agree with people, but I'm trying to Tim's point. We may just end up with a really, really cool tool that asks, have you thought about X? I don't see get the cup of water working only in the most explicit sense of, can I make a robot go get water? Yes. But is that really what's going on when I go get water? No. So the question thing's pretty good. Maybe we'll just come up with a better question asker. Don't know. One more thing about this. So I had my facilitator go back on the last session. I'm like, I've seen all these questions go by, and I'm just sort of scanning. Could you make a list of the questions the team members ask one another and tell me whether or not it was answered or fulfilled or still open or whatever? So he said, okay, sure enough. It comes at 200, a little table. And he says at the bottom, well, of course, most of these were rhetorical. I'm like, yeah, I guess you already know what you know. So really you're asking questions of what I know. It's like, yeah, it would have to be rhetorical because you're not going to know any more than you already know. It's insane. It's cool stuff. Okay, what have you guys been reading? Media before we bail out?
Exercise, see how far you can push it, yeah.
Media, John, we've talked about movies. Any use? How you doing? Still doing it? Book?
No, nothing new. Still same old upgrade book, but I didn't get that far in it, so no, nothing different.
I'm still on Thomas Covenant. Tim, anything besides the horror movies?
Besides the horror movies, I'm still reading Benner's book on naming. I haven't finished it, but I'm also not staying with it very consistently, so I'll get there.
Okay. Would you be interested in me sending you a link for a more readable book on that?
Suddenly you can't hear you.
Would you like me to send you a link for a more readable book regarding naming? Would you like to get... All right. I'm do the bottom. Well, there you go. We ran out of time because we ran out of time. So the audio gods were good to us today. We made it all the way to the end, and then screw you, you're out of time. So works fine. This is the roundup. There's a duck on the next page. If you're interested in joining, scan the duck, love the duck. The duck must be your friend. The duck must like you. You come to the Discord room. You're welcome to join anytime you want. I'm Daniel Markham. I will see you on the internet. Thanks, guys.
All righty. Catch you later.
Now the mic works.
Yeah, that works great.
I hate my life, okay? I'll see you later.
See ya.
All right, so this is the end of that. I need to stop these streams. Streaming stopped. And goodbye, folks. Thanks for dropping by. And I will stop recording, and I will put this on YouTube later.